So I just lost my job today, and it feels weird to even say that. It has not set in, but yeah, I am unemployed.
This just dropped. I haven't seen anyone talk about it. Here is the summary. 60% of business execs say they're likely to do layoffs in the second half of this year. Of those companies planning to do layoffs, 44% plan to lay off over 30% of their staff.
I lost my job on March 7th, 2024. I loved my job.
Is it just me, or do I keep hearing about family and friends who have lost jobs within the past 6 months? If that's you, or you want to be prepared in case it might be you in the future, listen to this episode to better prepare yourself. This is Rich Girl's Guide, where we demystify the world of personal finance to help you create a financially successful and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Kirby, and I worked in wealth management for over 6 years before leaving the office to focus on my business and my family. Okay, so for those of you who have been here a while and those who know me IRL in real life, you already know that my family just went through this at the beginning of 2024. I had just quit my office job about 2 months prior. We moved to a new city and we were basically learning how to live off of one reliable income when my husband ended up losing his job, and that reliable income vanished. Fast forward to now, my husband has a new job. I still have unreliable but sporadic income throughout the year, and we have definitely adjusted to our new normal. Luckily, we managed to make it out without missing any payments. Think mortgage, car payment, credit cards, even our retirement savings, although I probably wouldn't recommend that for most people. So I compiled a list of the most helpful things that helped save our butts and what we did to help get through that turbulent time. First things first, having an emergency fund is key. I'll link my full episode that goes into depth about all things emergency funds, but here are the key takeaways. You should have at least 6 months worth of expenses. Expenses being your needs. Think groceries, rent, gas, the non-negotiables, in an account that is easy to access in an emergency. I like to recommend using a high-yield savings account at an online bank because those tend to give you the best interest rates. Think anywhere from 4 to 5% annually, meaning you are earning actual money as opposed to your typical brick-and-mortar bank that will typically be giving you pennies on the dollar. As long as you have your emergency fund in something that is earning at least a little bit of interest, while not having any loss potential, so no mutual funds or stocks, and it's liquid, meaning you can get your hands on it within 24 to 48 hours, you should be golden. If you do not have 6 months worth of expenses already saved in an emergency fund, then this is going to be your top priority. According to a study conducted by LinkedIn, it takes an average of 7 weeks for employees to find a job from submitting their first application to actually starting their first day of work. Not to mention, you're not going to receive your first paycheck for at least another couple of weeks after your first day. Again, this is just an average. Personally, I would not be comfortable with having only 2 months worth of emergency fund savings, which is why I like to say 6 months at least. Okay, so here's the thing. If you've already lost your job and you don't already have an emergency fund, you are going to need to become a scrappy little mouse of a human. I'm talking ramen for dinner, cutting out every single non-essential purchase. Yes, that means takeout and movie tickets and spray tans. You are paying for the essentials only. This is the time to do some spring cleaning. Have a yard sale. Sell that purse you haven't worn in 2 years. Purge the things that no longer serve you and get some extra cash in the process. Do you have neighbors who need babysitting on the weekend or the weeknights? Or their dogs walked in the middle of the day? Get out there and hustle, baby, because you are going to need every single dollar you can get your hands on. Now, some people will tell you to get a part-time job or do Uber driving at night, food delivery services. You know the drill. And to that I say, maybe. Why in the world would I say maybe to getting a job while you are looking for a job? Well, depending on your income history and the state that you live in, you very well may get more money from unemployment than you would from a part-time job. Hear me out. Unemployment is not something you should be ashamed of. It is somewhat of a safety net in the case that you lose your job and need income while you're looking for a new job. If you find yourself in that predicament, it would be really unwise to not tap into that resource, especially because as a taxpayer, you have paid money into this program. You should be able to utilize it when you need to. No matter what, if you lose your job, you need to apply for unemployment on the very first day that you're eligible. Even if you do end up finding a job right away, even if you realize you would rather work part-time while you are looking for a job, it is absolutely essential to apply right away because you just never know. My husband had some really great leads and interviews for new positions as soon as he found out he was being let go, but he still ended up applying for unemployment on his first official day of not working. And thank God, because all of those promising leads ended up falling through. Not to mention, filing for unemployment is, how do I put it? Not fun and not easy. They don't make it easy to follow up with like an actual person if you run into any issues, and it's really hard to figure out when your first payment will be deposited. So I would just recommend getting ahead of it and get it out of the way right at the start. Now, here is where the maybe you should think about getting a part-time job comes in. You might get a somewhat livable amount from unemployment on a weekly basis, again, just depending on where you live and what your income history has been. Or you might get half a week's worth of expenses over the course of a month, which is exactly what happened in our case and where our emergency fund came in clutch. Had we not had an emergency fund and our unemployment was as little as it was, it would have been absolutely worth it to have my husband get some kind of part-time job that paid more than unemployment. He could have easily found a job in our area that paid almost twice as much as unemployment did. Because we had our emergency fund, we ended up deciding not to go that route, and part of that is due to my next tip, which is apply for jobs like it's your full-time job. He literally put in 40 hours a week. I would argue a minimum of 40 hours a week, applying for jobs, tweaking his resume, making new cover letters for each application, and doing interview after interview after interview, literally nonstop interviews. We both really wanted him to focus his attention on that and focus on getting a good paying job in the field that he actually wanted. Now, this might be a bit counterintuitive, but it will definitely be a help to us in the long run. My husband also took this time to boost his credentials, aka he studied for a certification in his field. He paid for and took a certification test that he ended up passing. Now, I don't think he actually uses this certification in his current role, but it absolutely helped him get his foot in the door for more positions that he actually wanted, and it did ultimately help him land this current job. So if you have the extra time since you're not working and you have the extra funds in your emergency funds, please make sure this is not going to set you back financially. Then you may want to think about finishing that certification that you've put on the back burner. Speaking of having extra time on your hands, I truly believe that this was the number one thing that really kept our family going through this time. We used this extra free time to our advantage as much as we could. While my husband was putting in those 40 hours a week to apply and interview and everything that goes into that, he could move around those hours however he saw fit. Meaning we got to eat lunch together during the week. We did a ton of family walks and going to the park and finding free activities to do as a family pretty much every day to get out of the house and spend time together. We got to go visit family for a full week during my daughter's spring break, which we were not planning to do. We weren't expecting to do it, but we had the time and my husband could do everything remotely. We made sure to incorporate fun into our week. Now, that does not mean that every day was fun. We obviously had our ups and downs, but we really did try to prioritize keeping things fun and normal. Absolutely no good is going to come from shaming yourself or your family member, dwelling on the bad, or focusing on all the things that could possibly go wrong. Because yes, there's a lot that can go wrong. Focus on the good and it will really make the process go better. Yes, this time really sucks, but you can get through it. You will get through it. And I promise you will make it out stronger than you went in if you keep your chin up. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you have any money questions, please feel free to drop a comment on YouTube, email me at hello@richgirlsguidepodcast.com, or submit a question anonymously at the link in the description. I will catch you next Monday with a brand new episode. Later, Rich Girls.